Hey, this is Ryan Estis, and you're listening to Awaken Nation with Brad Solis.
A huge shift is taking place on planet Earth. People seem to be waking up. Tired of the way things used to be, they are creating something brand new and changing the world we live in. My name is Brad Solis, and I get to sit down with the next generation of idea makers, the disruptors, and the game changers. Everyday people, just like you and me, from all over, who are doing amazing things. Welcome to Awakened Nation.
Ryan, how's it going, man?
Hey, Brad, it's going really good, man. It's good to be here.
You're kind of looking like Keanu Reeves today. What's going on with the?
Yeah, man, that's the pandemic look, right? So, I just the hair's going long, and I figured the beard would go with it. So
You damn hippie, as my father would say.
yeah, at least for the time being, probably for the rest of this year, that's for sure.
Oh my God, yeah. Now you're in downtown Minneapolis, one of my favorite places, by the way. How you surviving down there?
You know what? Good. I honestly, all things considered, I'm pretty fortunate. I'm COVID free. I just actually got the test, and it's a Minnesota summer is a great place to, it's a great place to kind of hole up and be. We spend a lot of time on the water, get outside. We've got a great parks and recreation system.
Yeah.
So even downtown, I live kind of right on the edge of the city, a block off the Mississippi River.
Oh wow.
There's a lot of opportunity for recreation, time on the water, and it's been strange for me. This is probably the longest stretch of time I've been stationary without traveling in 20 years. So it's only a new experience.
For those of you who are listening who don't know, if you're a keynote speaker, you're on a plane a lot. Let's just put it that way.
Last year I probably lived about a third of my life in hotel. So just what a dramatic. I did 80 events last year, well over 150 days of travel with some project work in there too, and this is just so different.
It is. I don't know about you, but when I have to fly a lot for gigs, I force myself to act like a giant child because otherwise you'll be like, another flight, And so I'm playing with the window shades, and I'm like, hey, because if you don't, keep your mindset a certain way, you're just going to go stir crazy because this is the 80th flight this year.
Yeah, it's very much mindset. I mean, I just would kind of get into a real routine of, listening to podcasts, writing on planes on my laptop, doing some work.
Yeah.
I think, staying healthy is a big challenge just from physically, trying to get good rest and exercise and eat right. Just those kind of, when you're different time zones, sleeping in different beds, three nights, 3 cities, 3 nights in a row, 3 different hotel rooms, that kind of wear you out a little bit. So the recovery protocols, as I've gotten a little older, are pretty imperative too. This is probably the best I've felt in a while. Just
wow.
I'm in a routine now.
Yeah.
A very disciplined one, and my body has responded well. So it's been a nice recovery period for me in some way.
Wow. Well, this is going to be a great episode, my friends. Because Ryan, I've watched your career for years. I've watched you go through this transition of getting into breath work and yoga and all this other stuff. And Jane Atkinson, our mutual friend, can't talk enough about you. So let me introduce you to our audience. Ryan Estis has more than 20 years of experience as a top-performing sales professional and leader. As the former chief strategy officer for the McCann Worldgroup advertising agency, NAS, he brings a fresh perspective to business events. As a keynote speaker, Ryan is known for his innovative ideas on leading change, improving sales effectiveness, and preparing for the future of work. He was recently recognized as one of the best keynote speakers ever heard by Meetings and Conventions magazine alongside Tony Robbins, Bill Gates, Colin Powell, and Mike Ditka. And by the way, I can attest, you're amazing on stage. It's just, you know what it is? It's conversation, and it's highly interactive. And not too many keynote speakers are comfortable with jumping off the stage and really getting in there with the audience, which is one of my favorite things to do. But let me continue. Ryan delivers keynote speeches, courses, and online learning with an emphasis on actionable content designed to elevate business performance. His curriculum emphasizes emerging trends influencing leadership effectiveness, sales performance, and customer experience. Ryan helps participants prepare to thrive in today's ultra-competitive, hyper-connected business environment. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the rest in your bio, but welcome to the show, Ryan.
Great to be here, Brad. I've been looking forward to this conversation. So thanks for having me.
You bet, man. So let's go back in time a little bit. And really the premise of the show, we like to go where you fell down, where you gave it a shot, and then your resilience kicked in. But you were a strategist, and you want to explain to people what that is?
Yeah. So, my corporate career, I worked in advertising and communications, came up on the account side of the business. Started in entry-level sales and then kind of grew into a strategy role. So, we were guiding clients on their communication strategy, and I had a team that I was responsible for. And a part of that responsibility included major account acquisition. So I was always doing new development for the agency. But yeah, it was a combination of kind of overseeing our go-to-market strategy, our competitive positioning, our value proposition, and then interfacing with key accounts and working on major business development pitches. So that was the kind of combined role, in addition to sitting on our executive team and kind of guiding the overarching strategy of the business.
Wow. Well, I was more on the design and the layout side. And I remember I was in Pittsburgh. I graduated from the Art Institute of Pittsburgh, and I got an interview with Ketchum McLeod and Grove. And, you go into this high rise, and I'm a kid from a small town, so I'm like, oh man, And then I got a chance to go to New York and do some interviews as well. And so I was... I went to places like Lintus, and I went into McCann as well. I met some legends, but I didn't want to be in that bullpen, man. I just you gotta.
I don't blame you. I started my career in advertising with a small privately owned agency, family-owned business, and we were acquired by Interpublic and rolled into McCann. And so that, and it was a great experience for me. I mean, I got some phenomenal training.
Right.
I got to work, travel and work internationally. And it was just, it expanded my perspective and I think my skill set, and gave me some exposure, and also taught me some things about what I liked and what I didn't like, the difference between working for a privately held business and a publicly traded company. And so that kind of exposure, I think, was beneficial and relevant to what I'm doing now. So.
Oh, I agree. I mean, people crack up. It's like everything you've done in your career and your life adds up to this moment in time where only you can deliver that. Only you. So I want to talk about this because you made this decision to quit that all and become a keynote speaker, and that wasn't easy in the beginning.
No, it wasn't. I think, timing is an interesting thing. I mean, I made my decision to exit corporate life in January of 2009. So if you reflect back on that period of time, 2008, the Great Recession hit. It was certainly catastrophic for the advertising industry, and our agency was no exception. We were caught flat-footed, made a series of decisions that, from my perspective, weren't in the long-term best interest of that business. And then I just, at the end of that year, at the end of 2008, I was at a real inflection point. When we came back after a little break in January, I just saw the writing on the wall. We were going to go through additional rounds of layoffs, and from my perspective, that was going to damage the business permanently, and I didn't want to spend the sweet spot of my career running a mediocre agency sideways, and I just wasn't up for it anymore. So, my departure, although I had thought about it previously, speaking my departure, because it was part of my job. I would speak at trade shows and conferences, really promote the business. That's how I kind of got into it, and I loved doing it, and I was getting at it and getting invited to these conferences. But as an executive, it was industry specific. And then when in that moment of truth, I just said, you know what, I'm out, and I'm going to go pursue this thing and experiment and explore. And I gave myself a window of time, and the first 2 years were really, really difficult. I made mistakes, and the timing wasn't right, and I got into a bad partnership. But I was able to stay the course, navigate all of those twists and turns, and here I am today, a decade later, navigating the next crisis.
I know, it's crazy in this modern world. What's next? We've had COVID-19. Next is who knows? We're gonna have something. I heard they're gonna replicate dinosaurs now. That's a joke. I'm just there's always something on the horizon now. It's like, oh, okay.
Look, you gotta expect curveballs. I would have never expected this. I mean, being in the kind of in the events industry, and a big primary driver of our revenue stream is Keynote speaking, the live event business. I did 80 events in 2019, and the idea that we wouldn't be able to gather, it's something that I could have never expected. And so, but you adapt and pivot and adjust and move through it.
Yeah, I think that's the key. And I'm a baby boomer, and I know you've done some research into the generational issues. Boomers our brains were trained actually to hoard knowledge and just sit here with it and go, okay, I got the goods now. And now you're being forced to say, let that go. Every couple of weeks, every couple of months, there's a new way of doing it. It's almost like a software update in your brain every 2 weeks. And that's hard to handle sometimes. It really is.
I think it's hard. It's been hard to handle for everybody, and particularly because the uncertainty continues. And so, but you raise a good point, I think, and it's related to the future of work, this idea of learning agility, of our willingness to get uncomfortable, to continue to adapt, to really disrupt ourselves before the marketplace or competition does it for us. So I always try and conduct experiments in my business. And the goal of the experiment isn't necessarily a big outcome, but it's to stay in that learning lane and to continue to iterate the business forward. And so I just think that innate curiosity, that willingness to experiment, to take intelligent risks, it's critical, particularly for any small business owner or entrepreneur.
Right. Well, what I've been impressed with you is, sometimes that little experiment turns into loyalty. Maybe not a direct revenue stream that you can measure, but you were talking about how you have like 6 steps for when a client comes in, and that's a unique sort of way of handling it. And if you're the only person doing that in a market where it's like, hey, oh, okay, when do you want me to start speaking? Instead you have a process. You go, okay, what's your pain points? You go through that. Do you want to talk a little bit about that process? Because I think that is what makes you not only incredibly unique, but it turns your speaking career into speaking business.
Well, and so thank you. And process, discipline, I'll just give credit. We talked a little bit about my background. That just comes from my McCann days. They had a 5-step process called the demand chain. It was about demand creation, and I thought, okay, that worked really well. Clients embraced it, adopted our language. It was helpful for onboarding a client. And so I just replicated that playbook for this new business. And we have the Ryan Estis experience, and my team and I, when we engage, and that's the first touch point from the first point of contact to post-event or post-engagement delivery. We actually have an aftercare program that lasts for 12 months after the event. So, it's not just delivered by me. I've got two people that are supporting me that are supporting our client experience, but we're all focused on elevating and delivering this. And I think it lends itself to a high degree of customization, personalization, and we've just become obsessed about this idea of delivering world-class client experience. And of course, that leads to better relationships, referrals, repeat business, all of the things that have helped us drive growth. So we've grown this business 10 consecutive years, and I think that process, discipline, and commitment to client experience is a big reason why. Now, we're not going to grow top line in 2020. We're in a pandemic, but those relationships and that referral business have been critical to enabling us to sustain ourselves through this. A lot of clients are using us for virtual events, and we've engaged in some pretty exciting consulting work. And so that's part of the reason why I think we're weathering the storm well.
Yeah. I'm friends with Dawn of St. Louis, and she's like booked like 10 events in the past 2 weeks that are just virtual. And I'm like, wow. Yeah. So people need this. I've emceed a few of these live events. It's just a transfer of your skill set to the bigger lean forward screen.
Well, that's exactly right. And I tell our little team here, just, we have to view our business. We're in the expert in education business. And, my expertise is in sales and leadership. That's my background. And, we're a corporate education company. I always say a research and learning company is how I positioned it.
Right.
And now the medium is just different. While we can't gather live, it doesn't mean that our clients don't need support and ideas for how to grow their business or navigate this crisis. And we've got a lot of experience in that. And so we're just the medium for delivery is just different. So we've got 2 big events next week, and they're just going to be virtual, and that's great.
I love your storytelling abilities. And folks, if you've never seen Ryan speak, just go on LinkedIn, look for his Prepare for Impact episodes, and also just look up The Perfect Cup of Coffee, which is one of my favorite stories. You want to talk about that a little bit? Because I think I met her. It depends on where.
Did you really? Okay.
I forget where it was, but she was, she went bent over backwards. Hey, sweetie, blah, blah, blah. What do you want? Come back. I hope to see you when you come back. And I'm like, what the hell just happened?
Right. What happened? Yeah.
I was like, I had so much love. I want to come back.
Well, the story originates on Christmas Eve in the Minneapolis airport. And so I was heading back to Ohio to visit family, and I had a little time to kill. So I got a latte at Starbucks and just was blown away by the kind of connection that the barista made with me. And so as I just kind of stood there in the airport, I decided to go back and talk to her a little bit. And, famously, she explained to me that she wasn't serving coffee. She was pouring happiness. And I just was so moved by her story in that moment that I decided to retell it a little bit. And over the years, we developed a relationship. And, that story is, I guess it's become a bit of a signature story in my keynote speaking, but it was really interesting. A year and a half ago, Goalcast, the platform Goalcast, reached out and they said, "Hey, we love your story on YouTube, and we'd like to, share it on our platform, produce the video Goalcast style." And I said, "Great. I'd love more people to meet Lily and get the message. She's pretty special." Right. And it's really her. I always say it's just been my privilege to shine a spotlight on her. It's about her. It's not me. And so I said the more people that could meet Lily and understand the ethos of pouring happiness, in my opinion, the better. So please spread the love. And they did. And I think it's up to 65 million views or something crazy like that. And and she got inducted into the Minneapolis Airport Customer Service Hall of Fame. Wow. And I went and did an event, and she came, and it was a beautiful moment. We brought a photographer. We got a bunch of pictures, and she stood up, and we both got really emotional. It's been a pretty special journey over the years. And every time I go to the airport, I check to see if she's there. So it's been great. And hundreds of people, just from the story moving around, have gone through the airport and taken a selfie with her and then tagged me in it. And so it's kind of fun how it's worked out.
That's incredible. That's when a story takes on a life of its own. One of my favorite shows was Undercover Boss. And I wish more, executives and managers understood this, but they, hold on a second. I live right by a highway. I'll edit that out. I wish more executives and managers and bosses kind of knew this. And this episode of Undercover Boss was 7-Eleven. And the CEO couldn't figure out why this one Long Island 7-Eleven in the middle of nowhere was doing like $4 million in coffee sales. Don't quote me, folks, but he showed up undercover, and it was this one woman who knew everybody's order, and she hustled, and she goes, "Hey, good morning, Brad. How you doing? I got your coffee ready." She knew everybody's order, like it was already up here. And she was constantly, as you know, when you're at 7-Eleven, the urn's empty quickly. And she just was on every urn, cleaning the counters, saying hello to everybody, just working her magic. And he was so touched by this. Not only evidently her daughter was sick, had leukemia or something, and he just gave bonuses and donated money to help her. And it's that simple, man. It really is that simple. And I know these people are only making maybe a little bit above minimum wage.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there's just a brilliant lesson around that. I mean, I think part of the Lily story, it's, she makes a conscious choice about how she's going to decide to show up no matter what. It's like when I'm talking about it, I always tell people, you can imagine most people would rather be anywhere else on Christmas Eve than in an airport serving coffee, but not her. And it's this conscious choice to decide how you show up and really look at each moment, each one of these interactions, because you think most of the people that Lily meets, she's never going to see again.
Right.
And, she just, the presence she has in each moment with each customer, she makes you feel special, and it has an impact. And look, people are creatures of habit. We talk about a 7-Eleven, and I know I'm this way here in my neighborhood. I have my spots, and part of that is based on the connection and the relationships and the people. And so I always tell, from a leadership perspective, put people first, man. Performance and profitability follow.
That's my first chapter in my book, Liquid Leadership. You got to put people first. I mean, it's not the guy at the top; it's the person on the front line. If you give them power and autonomy to do as they can and train them right, I think it's incredible what the outcome is. And I want to say this about you. This is an idea that just popped up while we're talking. You watch the movie "It's a Wonderful Life," and you sit there and you don't know the impact you personally also have in this world. It's sort of it's a two-way street on many levels. And I'm sure people have told you, thank goodness Ryan is here, or thank goodness, you are here to help us through this. And so I feel like, as okay, we're gonna get metaphysical here a little bit. But as soul, as a loving being and doing what you do, you're touching lives as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, that's my why. And both my parents were school teachers. I probably have a little bit of that gene in me. My classroom is a little different. But yeah, what you're talking about is something that I actually refer to as exponential impact. And so my Sunday newsletter is called Prepare for Impact. Impact is a big focus. It's the reason we do this. And I keep a folder of an impact folder in my Outlook of just stories, people that have reached out after an event or after some time has gone on, and taken our time together and done something with it. And I always reinforce to my team, that's why we're doing this. And it isn't necessarily one-to-one, but it's the woman who was in my audience, who was in dental school, and she was on the verge of quitting, but decided that day not to quit. And then it's the picture on graduation day with her parents and the note with the picture that says, thank you for inspiring me. I was in a dark place. I was ready to give up and I didn't. And I just wanted to show you the outcome of this. And it's those, and then, and then she's going to go on and do something extraordinary with her life and have this ripple effect in the world. And so it is that idea of exponential impact that I think is the precious gift and the role that we get to play in the world. And the more that we can have, from my perspective, better servants we've been.
You said it. Boom. That's like we should do something dramatic after that, because it's like that's the essence of leadership to me. It's like
I would say leadership isn't a job. It's a responsibility. And it's not about us. It's about helping other people achieve the best they're capable of being. So it is about impact.
Yeah. It's supporting on many levels the soft skills, the touchy-feely stuff, so the person can, get out there and really go to the next level. Because you can always tell a company where the leadership is supporting each individual.
Well,
you can feel it.
Sure. The soft skills are actually becoming the hard skills, but they're becoming the skills that differentiate one team from another. When we all have access to the same technology, and information is everywhere, and ideas are ubiquitous, and things are moving at the speed of light. What is the differentiator? And it becomes these softer things: culture, teamwork, collaboration, commitment, engagement, loyalty, discretionary effort, psychological safety, the things that leaders cultivate, create an environment where people actually exceed their own expectations of what they thought was possible. And that's what drives a business forward, particularly in a competitive marketplace. What's the difference?
Right.
What's the difference between one ad agency and another? Really?
It's true. So true. I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. I'm going to ask you this. This will be fun. What should we know about you that nobody knows about Ryan Estis? This is a thinking man show.
Gosh, what could I tell you that nobody knows? I mean, I've been pretty public about my life, so I feel like I'm allergic to cashews and pistachios. Would that help with the? I don't know if that's
nailed it. We
emotional construct, but honestly, I mean, I feel like some of the and you talked about this kind of my journey. I feel like I've been pretty forthright and candid in sharing my own setbacks and change journey and my evolution, both as a leader and owner and a person. I had a huge setback in my life in 2015-16, and that set me down a new course where I started to explore. It was kind of a spiritual awakening, and I think that changed forever.
Do you want to share that?
Yeah, sure. So I, outwardly, things looked pretty good in 2015. That was the year where my speaking business exploded. And so prior to that, it was kind of a hybrid business where I was doing consulting and speaking and training. But really that 2015, the Keynote speaking business took off. Just some things happened, and I got on the radar screen of some booking agents, and so the business was exploding. Our fee was going up. The deal, I was in demand, and I was saying yes to everything. And at the end of that year, while we had a growth year in the business, I was just very depleted personally, and I didn't make all the best choices. So I had a significant relationship in my life that was coming to an end. And as that was ending and I was just physically exhausted, I had a big health scare. I had a tumor in my left bicep. They thought it was cancer. It ended up not being. But that going through kind of that period of time, I was like, wow, this is everything that I thought I wanted, and yet I'm suffering. And that led me down this other path to explore, I guess, my inner world. And I think prior to that, I was constructed very much from the outside in. I was kind of looking for that achievement and validation and growth, like so many small business owners and entrepreneurs are. That was my kind of measuring stick.
Right.
And really reconfiguring that and starting to work on myself from the inside out was a dramatic shift. And to me, that's work that's never done. But I always say the best leaders, they're born from the inside out. Leadership is an inside job. And so that inner work I think it's been critical to both my growth as a professional, a person, and I think what I'll call my sustainability. And so my identity is probably less attached to those outcomes. Like even in this, people are like, oh my God, your business. I'm like, you know what? I'm fine. This is going to be great. We're going to write a book, and we're going to do virtual events. We're going to learn a bunch about technology and explore some other kinds of work with our clients. And we're going to come out of this on the other side better than we were before.
You know, this is what you and I have in common. I remember when I moved to New York City, I realized I was a seeker my entire life. And I hit it. You know, I could play the game better than anybody else. I can walk in. Do you know how awesome I am? Yeah, who gives a crap? And then you go through a couple of outer things that jar you, you know, like me. I got a divorce and moved out here. So I've looked at my life along the way, and it is always doing this work. It never ends. It truly never ends. But you're right. The more you go inward, the more you work on your stuff, your shadow work, as they call it, and you deal with these things, it's the weirdest thing, but relationships get sweeter and better. Business actually elevates, and it's not for the purpose of money. It's just you're serving your clients better at a different level. Like I mean, it's really much deeper. You know, I don't know about you, but the more you do that work, when a company calls you, you actually can see where the pain points are and what's causing it probably faster than you used to.
Yeah, I mean, shadow work it's where we heal and transform. We heal and transform. You know, we bring that with us wherever we go. You know, the beginning of what I would call inner work for me, I was a bit naive in my approach. I said, okay, well, I went to that retreat. I did a little therapy. I read these 2 books. I'm done. Like I checked that box. And I'm like, I'm good. I get it now. Okay.
Because you're a goal setter.
I am. I'm like, yeah, that's what I have to go do that. Done. You know, I was very naive, and I think even really over the last, I would say, 18 to 24 months, I experienced what I would call a series of setbacks, and it reignited my commitment to doing deeper inner work. And certainly, this moment of pause has given me the bandwidth and the space to re-engage and recommit to it in an entirely different way. And I can feel the result. And so to your point, it's not about the destination or checking the box. Our kind of striving achievers mindset, if you're type A, and that's how I was raised, and is so me. If you kind of put that aside a little bit and realize, hey, this is work I'm going to be doing the rest of my life. It's part of my further journey.
Wow.
And in doing the work, all of my work gets better, and my experience here gets better. And that is how you transcend suffering into something that ultimately is sustainable for you, but also has an impact on others.
Right. Wow, that's powerful. I hope everybody's taking notes on this show, because we're approaching a lot of these Eastern philosophies with a Western attitude. And I had Panache Desai on the show a couple of months ago, and
Wow.
he said, yeah, Brad, he goes, I grew up with these values living in India, and then we moved to London, and I tried to fit in, he said. And it's sort of the journey of soul. We all kind of do this. We try to fit in, and then we realize it doesn't work. And a lot of people say when you hit your 40s, that's when everything goes to hell and you're forced to deal with this stuff. 40s.
Well, that was certainly true for me.
This is powerful work, man, and I really admire that you're doing it. You're also doing yoga too, huh?
I do. So I haven't done as because my studio closed. So I haven't done as much practice during the pandemic. But to offset or augment that, I hired a personal trainer. So I've just been real committed to, longevity and maintaining kind of my physical health and wellness, because I think that's, I bring that level of energy to the work that I do. And it's become even a bigger priority through this. Look, a lot forced change, a lot of stress, a lot of uncertainty. and maintaining health and wellness has been a critical component for navigating that. So I've actually upped the ante on that. And it's funny, just before this call, I was looking at classes. My yoga studio opened again. So you have to wear a mask to actually practice, but I am going to go back and do that. And I'm looking forward to it.
That's wild. Yeah, yoga is an amazing discipline. I did the martial arts for a little while, and then I said to myself, why am I doing this to get hit in the head? I need to calm the hell down and just sort of do some hot yoga or something. But it's actually, yoga is meditative practices put into the physical form.
Exactly right.
And so it as you become more limber and you become, more pliable and flexible, so does your mind.
It's mind, body still, and just kind of the discipline, just be present and be where you are and be focused on doing what you're supposed to be doing. It creates that bit of discipline. Plus it's good for the body. I mean, I think as you get older, obviously flexibility and sitting all day like this and looking into these screens and typing isn't great. We all know that. So you have to move your body. And yoga has been, I've had some lower back issues, and if I'm practicing consistently, that's a non-issue. So it's worth it.
That's incredible. Yeah. I found as I got older, I was never somebody who was an athlete as a kid. And so to shift your mindset into being completely different than your just innate nature, I think is, I guess it's just, you get to a certain point where you just stop accepting a certain standard of life and living. Like for me, I remember I used to be late all the time. And then just one day I got up and never hit the snooze button ever again. Always showed up 10 minutes before a meeting. It was just a shift. It was a weird thing that happened.
And that's how change happens. I think that's an important point for anybody that's listening. It happens, there can be a lot of things, precursors that lead up, but there is a moment where people said, I'm not going to tolerate that anymore. It's a line in the sand. You make a decision and a commitment to yourself. And that's it. Like, I'm not going to hit snooze again. Not another second, not another day. And you'll get what you tolerate. And it starts with you, right? That's what you can control. Like, you can't control a lot of the things that go on outside in the world.
Right.
You can control yourself. And that's why I think, inner work and cultivating some of that discipline, it just gives us a better opportunity, back to the coffee story, of showing up as the best version of ourselves, no matter the circumstances. And, that's a gift if you can get yourself there.
I think it's a matter of being aware of what are you running to this invisible, goal that you've set. Is it a goal that you truly want? And it's all under the surface. Sometimes it's subconscious, sometimes it is conscious, but at the end of the day, you get off that treadmill. Like my treadmill was, I got to make my dad proud of me. I got to get his attention because my dad was Hungarian, first generation born here. He wasn't into touchy-feely soft skills. Didn't say he was proud of me. He did it once. And so my whole existence has been on this treadmill. And I finally stepped off. And I said, oh my goodness, the energy I was wasting. And I think you hit the nail on the head. You get to this point where you say, here's the line in the sand, and I'm letting go of that old me.
Yeah. No surprise. The fatherhood validation is something that you and I share. So I had a very, very difficult relationship with my father. Yeah. The bar, was always too high, and it felt like I was never enough to earn his love and validation and acceptance. And that innately moves you into a striving achiever's mindset. It's like, okay, I'm not enough, or I'm not worthy of love, and so therefore I'm going to go out and achieve and strive and try to accomplish a bunch of things, to elevate my worth, my value in the world. And while that drive, I think, maybe even in your 20s or 30s, it can move you to a certain place of achievement. Yeah. At some point, you're going to run into an inner conflict, and if that's your motivation, if they, external achievement is my source of self-worth, is a very, very, you're setting yourself up for some pain. And I got there. I'm sure you have too, and things go in your life sideways if that's what you're moving toward. And so I had to examine that, and that to me is the shadow work or the inner work. I wasn't even conscious of this. And I'll tell you, for your listeners, if this resonates with anyone, the beginning of my transformation was an 8-day personal growth retreat called the Hoffman Process, which is about resolving some of those unhealed or unexamined childhood patterns that maybe are no longer serving us well. And that new awareness and new conditioning, and it was the beginning of my step in this other direction.
That's powerful. It takes a lot of guts to do this, and I still see grown men today who are reacting and angry and lashing out, and it's a simple process of dropping the ego stuff, that we've all built up, especially men. I mean, we have this thick masculine energy kind of stuff. You drop that and you go inside and you go, oh yeah, that's crazy that I've been doing that for, half a century, it's like, and let it go.
Many times unconsciously, it's awareness is the first step in the cycle of transformation. And so, if you use the word courage, it does take some courage to set that down. It's like, gosh, that's my ego, and take off that mask and let people see who you are. And it's look, these are the things of course we struggle with this. Look how we were raised, and a whole generation of guys that are actually use the word anger. Anger is just a shield for pain. If you're angry all the time, I can tell you what's beneath that anger is pain, low self-esteem, unhealed trauma. And it takes some guts to look at that and face it, deal with it. But that's the further journey. And on the other side of that work is a better way of living.
We get some gifts along the way that are just amazing. I had Shea Hillenbrand on, and he talked about the father stuff too. He played for the Boston Red Sox and the Diamondbacks and all these big teams. Walked away from it right in the middle of it all and realized he was angry and lashing out and all this, and it was all father stuff. All because of one conversation that he had with his dad when he was like 11 or 12. And the pain that he shared, I think we're in a day and age where men are capable of showing that side of themselves. We can be warriors, and we can also be sharing of ourselves. It makes us better fathers. It makes us better partners, lovers, you name it. I think that just going through that process of healing that, and it's never 100% healed. I still catch myself doing stupid stuff, but at least I know the mechanical part of that, why I'm doing it, and I can correct it. I go, okay, yeah, I'm sorry, I was being a jerk there. Yeah,
and so do I. Those patterns are deeply entrenched. So it's easy to get triggered. It's easy to fall back into that way of being. But hopefully now, you have awareness and language and some tools in the toolbox to deal with it, or recognize if or when it's happening, or if you get stuck in a rut or you get off course, you can pull yourself back. And to me, this is the way of the warrior. This is the work that's worth doing, because when you talk about exponential impact, in order to kind of you have to transcend yourself first in order to be your most authentic self and be able to impact others, the right way. So to me, leadership is an inside out game, man.
Yeah. I mean, you said it, man. It really is. I mean, it's facing the dark side, the shadow side, all that. I just did a Star Wars reference. I didn't think that was possible.
I just finished a great book that called Falling Upward by Father Richard Rohr.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a beautiful book. I think you'd love it too, because it talks about kind of the two halves of a life. And, it's first half of life, a lot of striving or achieving, but he talks a lot about shadow work and just really preparing ourselves to go on this further journey. And so many people get stuck in that place where they don't afford themselves an opportunity to look at it, heal it, understand it, transcend it, and it limits their ability to kind of go on this further journey that he talks about. And the book was just powerful reinforcement for me that this is the right way. So
that's the Tao of Ryan Estis.
Yeah, we're going deep, man. I didn't know that we were going to go there today, but I'm.
Well, that's the premise of the show. This is the weird part. I've been on probably 100 podcasts, either as a guest or a host, and they were mostly business podcasts, and it was always the same story. And, it was great. I got a chance to share my .com days experience creating one of the first .com agencies. And so I loved it, but we never were able to go deep. So when I started Awaken Nation, I put this off for years. People go, you got to have a podcast, man. And I'm like, I don't feel right. If I'm not going deep, I don't want to waste people's time. And so Awaken Nation actually was birthed through a process that my business partner, Elizabeth Ann Hamilton, and I did. We sat down, we were whiteboarding the future, the next 5 years, like we knew what 5 years was going to look like. Yeah. And so, this, I've named companies for people. I've broken down their marketing strategy. I've done all this stuff. We named Awakened Nation in like 20 minutes and had it fully laid out. I was like, that has never happened in my career. It's usually a month to name something and do a market analysis and all this. And finally, we were just like, that resonates. And so this has always been a show where this is season 3. We're wrapping up season 3. This has always been the kind of show where, like, I've had Brian Smith on, who founded Uggs. He created Uggs. And he talked about actually getting kicked out of his own company that he had made, famous, and then having to earn his way back in. And we had Chris Salem on, and he asked actually to be on the show. I said, well, if you're going to be on this show, you have to talk about your alcoholism. And he says, oh yeah, we're going to talk about my alcoholism, my sex addiction, my, all of my addictions. And he's another one. His father drove him. And so this was the kind of show where I wanted to have a great conversation with people like you, people who are out there at the forefront, changing lives, regular people, extraordinary conversations is really what it's about. So I'm so honored that you're on today's show, and I know our guests are getting some great value from this conversation.
Well, congratulations and thank you for what you're doing. Because I think conversations like this, it does help the collective wake up. Yeah. And that's really, really valuable work. It's a privilege to be here.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Yeah, we've had some very interesting conversations. We've had leaders in the Black conservative movement who aren't getting a platform to talk about things as much these days. We've had people from the LGBTQ community explaining, what this is all about, things like that. So I feel blessed and honored to be able to get those stories up and out and elevate it into a fun platform where they don't feel attacked and they can just share.
No, it's phenomenal.
Thanks. So I'm going to do a lightning round. We're going to ask you some questions, or I'm going to ask you some questions, and we'll that way our listeners get to know you. First question: what pisses you off?
Pandemics.
Because you seem zen-like calm. I'm just like, so what pisses Ryan Estis off?
I'll tell you, I get frustrated with all of the kind of politicizing of things and all of the division. Yeah. It's very disheartening for me to see that, it seems like everybody has an agenda and, taking sides. Look, we all need to come together and work for what's in the best interest of all of us. And I've been deeply, deeply frustrated. And I'll tell you, you don't have to look very far. You can just flip on the news to see just so many examples of egocentric, self-absorbed leadership. And so, yeah. and we're talking about exponential impact. That has exponential detrimental effects.
Yeah,
that's the kind of stuff I have a pretty hard time.
Yeah, you and me. It's been an exercise in patience and things like that. I'm not somebody who usually gets depressed, but the first 2 weeks of this, I was forced to face me, and that was a little depressing. That was a little rough. But I got into a routine, like you were talking about. You have to get into a routine, and so I started eating better. I actually came out here to heal. I'm in Vegas in the desert. I don't go to
Good
strip
for,
clubs and I don't go to casinos. I
good
like
for
a
you.
good I like a good buffet, and I like a hike in the mountain, and it's just exciting. My girlfriend loves to go hiking and up in the mountains, so I really enjoy that. And it's really about getting healthy, both mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually.
We're just on the same wavelength. I hit a wave of depression at the onset of this too. It was so overwhelming for me. Just
Yeah.
my last event was March 11th. My birthday was March 13th, and when I woke, which was a Friday, when I woke up that Monday, the next 6 weeks were spent deconstructing a year that we would work so hard to put together, cancellations, reschedules. I just and so I was just like, man, everything's falling apart.
Yeah.
And and then my schedule, my routine, totally disrupted. How am I going to be here at home and not go anywhere and not be in the action?
Right.
But the reset of that and saying, okay, I have choices to make here. So it took a minute though. It took a month for me to be like, all right, you need to get on a healthy track here. And what does that mean? And what does it look like? And I had to journal about it and write it down. And I didn't list support. But man, I'm grateful I did those things. Like it
Yeah.
sounds like you are too, because I think I've moved through this and I'm going to be better on the other side of it than I was.
Yeah. People are saying they gained weight. I lost weight. I started to. My last gig was with the United Negro College Fund Gala event. I'm the creative director every year. And so I flew back. It was like March 8th. That was it. And then everything shut down. I was supposed to do a live event here in Las Vegas, and my business partner and I, we postponed it. And I realized I just started sitting in an infrared sauna 3 times a day. I have it in the house. Started taking cold showers, cold baths. Started doing, the cold therapy because I was doing some research on that. Started standing on my head more. I do the 5 rites from the ancient book of the Fountain of Youth, the ancient secrets of the Fountain of Youth, and then work out. But here's my biggest thing that has helped is I get up, and after I'm done with all that beginning of the day stuff, I go out and walk in the desert, go grab a cup of coffee somewhere, and then come back and write in a journal or meditate or do some grounding. I ground. I put my bare feet on the ground, my hands, because I work on a computer a lot. I got to reground my body. And so those disciplines have really helped me from going stir crazy, as they say, and go deeper inside.
There it is. If every one of your listeners just follows your play, I don't need to say a word. They just follow that playbook. I'm gonna go read the Fountain of Youth book and maybe add a few things to my morning routine. But it is like routines and rituals are so important. And when those things are taken away or you're forced to change, shelter in place, you have to get yourself into a place where you have healthy, disciplined routines and rituals. And it's been my savior through this too.
Yeah. I mean, I got to the point where I didn't know what day it was. Like I forgot it was Friday. And I'm like, damn it, what's going on? So we have to have some sort of discipline because that's how our mind works. So yeah.
I always say, put it on the calendar. What gets scheduled gets done. And for me, accountability is a big deal. So I work with a trainer. I'm in way better shape now than I was pre-pandemic. Thank you, Carl. But you know what? The fact that that's on the calendar at 7 a.m. this morning, and I made a commitment, and he's going to be there, and I have to show up there, and I'm paying him. All of those things lead to that result, and my whole day is better because I do that.
Yeah, that's awesome, and that's a secret key. By the way, I was born on the 13th as well.
Were you really?
February.
Okay, got me by a month.
That's crazy. Second question. What's your favorite album?
I'll tell you one that I always go back to, and I'm such a big fan. Pearl Jam 10, their first album.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of him. I'm a huge fan of the band, the writing, the fact that they've stayed together all these years. But that music and that movement, it really just, probably the young, angry 22-year-old version of me, and it just resonated deeply, and it spoke to me in such a profound way, and I've been a huge fan of that band forever and ever. And so if I was picking one, that would be at or near the top of my list.
Well, it's very interesting because I accidentally became a generational expert. I wanted to go into leadership, man. And then people were calling me up for generational stuff. And the first thing I point out, I point out why each generation acts the way they do. So then we can move on. So now the data makes sense. You know what I mean? And one of the things I noticed was Gen X was raised on John Hughes films and the grunge movement. And they were the first latchkey kids. And they're coming home and they're just like, a little angst, a little anger. And like you said in one of your speeches, it says, Gen X, we're the most frustrated out of the generations because we showed up on time, we wore the suit, we listened to everything boomers told us to do. And then the thing I always say is like, boomers are now tripping over the dead bodies of Gen X so that they can shake hands with millennials because they're afraid that they're going to leave as a group. And
well,
so you
nailed me, latchkey kid, a lot of angst, and he, I think you could say whatever, Kurt Cobain, or there were a whole group of people that did, but he had the fatherhood issues he wrote about, and so it was just, man, he was a voice, and I've always been live. They just put on a show, man. They are knock you out. I'm a big fan.
As a baby boomer, I was always very concerned that what's the next wave of music? So I was in New York City in the 80s when Madonna was running around doing her thing. So there is nothing like that. Like I ran into Debbie Harry in a club one night. This is the kind of crazy stuff that would happen. So when the next generation came along, I said, well, what's their music going to be like? And when Pearl Jam came along, I went, that's it. I said, they're okay. They're going to be fine. Because when you hear Eddie Vedder's, she lies and tells that gritty, it's such a great combination that goes in there. And then I was concerned for my nephew being a millennial. What band is he going to like? So I taught him Rush, because I'm a big Rush fan. And
my first live concert, Rush.
Yeah, me too, 1981. But I got the 2112 album and I just went, whoa. So my nephew wanted to be a drummer, but he was learning on Rock Band. So I said, you got to play all the Neil Peart stuff.
You're the real drummer, right?
Yeah. So I actually talked about that in my TED Talk. I talked about how he learned on a video game and I learned in drumline, in rain, sleet, and snow. But when you see that each generation has their own angst, and millennials got Linkin Park as their band, I was like, yes, that was incredible. Tour de force that brought together, actually, this is the funny part, everything, all genres have been brought to bear in Linkin Park, whether it's rap, grunge, thrash, metal, it's all in there. So I can only listen to 3 songs before I'm really angry, but I really love them. They're really good. Yeah. So my last question for you, Ryan, what is your favorite memory? Take your time.
Yeah. What a great. I have some great memories of Christmas. And I had this memory. I was a kid, and I got this. It's funny because I recalled this memory recently while doing some inner work, and I don't know why it's stuck in my head, but a childhood memory of just Christmas Day, and I remember I got this toy, these Star Trek walkie-talkies, and I don't remember if I wanted them or asked, and I wasn't some big Star Trek buff. But I remember I was so excited to get these. And I loved that day, the celebration, the pageantry, and just kind of the shared experiences. And everybody seemed happy, which wasn't always the case in my house. But there was a day and so I just remember with those walkie-talkies, my brother like being upstairs and me being downstairs, and we could talk to each other. And I was just blown away that, we were having this conversation. At least I was fascinated by that and the imagination. And it's interesting, my mom still lives in the house we grew up in, and the one time a year that my entire family is together is that day. And so it's something that I look forward to. I have fond memories of, and the rituals have changed, experiences have changed. Now there's nieces and nephews and all those kinds of things. But that day is a special day and a fond memories.
That's incredible. Thank you for sharing that. Because I got to tell you, it's thank you. It's one of those things where I started asking certain questions, and I actually asked that by accident one day. And I find that it takes you to this other level, because we all have all these memories, but which one is the most important? Which one has impact? See how I did that? Impact.
Very good.
Yeah. I listen. Duh. But it's we all have that one memory we obsess over. That just either the negative one or the one where you're just shocked. Like that one day your dad did something that was so out of character, and you realize, right, that guy loves me. Those little moments, I just think those are the human experience.
They are. And you're right. We all have them.
Yeah. Ryan, thank you so much for being on Awakened Nation, my friend.
It was my pleasure. I really enjoyed the conversation. Continued success, my friend.
Thanks, brother. How do we get a hold of you? We go to ryanestis.com.
RyanEstis.com. Yep. Everything kind of flows through there, and pretty active presence on Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn. So feel free to have your listeners, hit us up if they want to catch the content. We share a lot.
Get on Ryan's list. His newsletter is excellent, and his Prepare for Impact videos. You are not only wise, my friend, but the strategies you lay out, they're not like made up. It's like these work. And that's what I love. You're welcome. Take care. Hey, everybody, tune in next week as we have another extraordinary guest, and we're wrapping up season 3. Thank you, and take care.
Thank you so much for being a big part of the Awakened Nation movement. This is how you can help me and our extraordinary guests. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share it out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And let's grow this movement by word of mouth. Our success will be because of you. Thank you, and see you next week.